Welcome back to Behind the Scenes here in the Creepy Crawler's Garage. We've got a few things we're going to talk about this week, starting with the new project you probably saw in last week's RC Shop episode. Then we're going to take a look at what's been going on with the airbags, and at the end, we'll dive into the mailbag. So if you watched last week's RC Shop episode, you saw that we have a new project in the garage. In fact, we talked about it last week in the Behind the Scenes episode. It's the Gremlin from Lee over at Bulgar RC. And last week we kind of talked about doing this as a barn find, kind of rusting it up and making it real rugged and kind of like a redneck build that was done and then pulled out of a barn and it was just kind of rusted out. Well, if you watched last week's episode of the RC Shop, you saw that I had some ideas about using the wheels and tires that we're no longer using for the shop truck on this Gremlin. And so I talked to Lee last week, and I don't want to say I convinced him, but we came together and decided to go a different direction with the Gremlin. In fact, he has some ties to an AMC Gremlin in his past. So I'm like, man, let's do this right then. Let's do this. Let's show this out. Let's make a nice showpiece for you in the channel there at Bulgar RC. Let's make this, with these wheels and tires, we can really, I think, make this look good. And he agreed. So we're going to go a different direction. We're going to save the barn find idea for a different project. And we're going to go a different direction with a showpiece for the Gremlin, which I'm actually very excited about. When I had this Gremlin in my hands, when I opened it up and looked at it, I'm like, man, I really don't want to tear into this body. I don't want to rust out this body. It's pretty nice and kind of, I mean, it was brand new. I mean, the car itself is, I think, 10 or 15 years old, but it was brand new out of the box. I'm like, man, I don't want to tear this up. So anyways, I was glad to hear that we're going to go a different direction, actually make a showpiece and really do this right. But I thought what we would do, go ahead and behind the scenes here, take a closer look at that Gremlin body real quick. So I went ahead and pulled the body off, and it actually comes off very simply with just a few self-tapping Phillips head screws. With the body off, I find it very interesting that there's actually a spot for a speaker, like there was supposed to be some kind of sound chip in this toy. Maybe it's an option that this particular one didn't have and that other models do have, or maybe it's just something that ended up probably costing too much money, so the manufacturer scrapped it to stay within a price point for these cars. But I find that interesting that there possibly or could have been a speaker element to these cars. This body is really cool. I've always dug the lines of a Gremlin. They're just super quirky, just really cool, but we've got to remove this luggage rack and the spoiler, these mirrors, the door handles, decal, all that's got to go. We got to smooth out this body and just stick straight to those silly kind of quirky lines of a Gremlin that I think can be really cool. I think I'm going to get rid of these bumpers also. They got to go. They just really ruin the lines of this body. We'll build some roll pans or something to replace them with, but I've just got to get rid of these bumpers. They destroy the looks of this car. The windows that came with this body are completely blacked out, so I'd really like to replace those with some clear plexi or Lexan or something, because I'm planning on putting an interior in this car for Lee, and I'd like to be able to see through the windows and see that interior. The only problem is, what I'd like to do is use these windows as a mold or a buck to form new windows from, but they glued them in. So not only are they screwed in, but they actually used glue to hold the windows in. I'm sure that's part of the installation process, probably holds them in place while they add the screws, but it's gonna make it harder for me to get them out. But we'll figure that out, but I will be putting in clear windows so we can see that interior. Like I mentioned, we're going to use the wheels and tires from the new shop truck on this Gremlin, but you can see that the rear fender wells are a little too big and the front fender wells are a little too small. So we're going to have to make adjustments for those. And like I also mentioned in last week's episode of the RC Shop, we're going to use Axial's Raw Builder's Kit as the chassis for this body. And what I think I'm going to do, because I think it'll work well, I'm going to build this chassis in an RC Basics episode. So I'll walk through the total build of this chassis in the RC Basics episode, and then in the RC Shop episode, the chassis will already be built and we can move forward. Anyways, just look for that to actually be done in an RC Basics episode. That'll be coming soon. So I've got a lot of ideas for this Gremlin, so stay tuned to the RC Shop episodes so you can keep up. So I got a little news for you guys concerning the airbags that we're using on the new shop truck. And this concerns all of you guys and my patrons. So I've sent out prototypes to my patrons that qualified. You guys should have them. You'll be seeing this Wednesday. So today, maybe tomorrow. I think some of you guys are a little further away. You might get them tomorrow or Thursday. But you should have them. Make sure and do something creative with them. Take a photo, send them to my email address. I'm going to post them at the Patreon page, and then we're going to vote, and the winner's going to win the 6x6. So also, I wanted to talk about the airbags in general. So we are still using them, even though we're changing wheels and tires. We are still going to be using them on the new shop truck. But keep in mind that what we've done so far is prototypes. So what you guys have seen already and what I've sent out to the patrons are actually 3D printed versions, or what I like to call prototypes. And that's really what 3D printing's for. Just to clarify, 3D printing is not a manufacturing process. You don't manufacture things by 3D printing it. You one-off. You create prototypes or one-offs with 3D printing, and that's what we've done so far as proof of concept. And that's why I've sent them to my patrons so they can see what they can do with them and just see if these would work. Now, with that said, 3D printing has a lot of variation. So it took a lot of work to get them to work smoothly. I had to sand them all individually. And so as a manufacturing technique, it's not very good, which I found out and which my patrons have found out in the delay of getting this to them. It was a lot of labor to get these produced. But we did prove that they work in concept, even with variation in the printing. And some of them work smoother than others because it's going to be just variation. In concept, they do work. So now I have to decide on how am I going to manufacture these in the future, because I do want to actually manufacture a real set of these, not only for the shop truck, but make them available. And I'm hoping to develop a full system, a full air system with the air pump and all that kind of thing. So how am I going to manufacture these? And I think there's two options. One, I can mold them. I can build a mold and just pour plastic or ABS. Or CNC. I think we could CNC aluminum, and I think that's probably the option I'll end up going with, because then we can have it threaded for the fittings, for the air fittings, all that kind of stuff. We can do different colors, different anodized aluminums, which I think would look really cool. So you can personalize them for different cars. But I've never actually had anything CNC'd, and I don't own a CNC. So maybe that's something I can look into. I don't know. It's probably not in my price range or in my budget. But what I was going to ask you guys is if you've ever had anything CNC'd, or if you know anybody that does that, or any companies that might do this kind of thing, let me know down below. I think that's the route I'm going to go. I think that's the best route to go. I think with the plunger CNC'd and a little grease, they'd work really smoothly, and I think that's the best way to go. So if you have any information on a company or anybody, or you've done it before and you have some insight on it, let me know down in the comments below. I'll be doing a lot of research on that. Also, on these prototypes, the bags, which, by the way, the bags I think are perfect. I think that works. I got to make better molds. So my 3D printed molds, again, 3D printing is not a manufacturing device. It is a one-off. So every about third bag, my mold would break. It's just how it is. I mean, that's 3D printing. It's going to happen. So what I'm going to do is make better molds. I'm going to mold some molds for the bags, but the material for the bags I think is perfect. Patrons out there, let me know. You're going to have some be able to touch it and feel it. I think they're perfect. So I'm going to stick with that, but what is going to change is on the prototypes, I just CA glued them to the plungers, or to the, I guess you would call them plungers, whatever you call that. I just CA glued them. I think I'm going to have to find a sealant, an actual sealant to do that with. I think that's the only thing that's going to change with the bags. But other than that, I think the bags are perfect, and I think with them CNC'd, that would be perfect. And then I just got to work out the actual air ride system, so the regulator and the pump and all that kind of thing. But anyways, look for that to come with the shop truck, and I'll keep you informed of where I'm at as far as a retail item. But stay tuned for that. So I finally made it down to the post office, and I had 2 items waiting for me. A couple channels sent me their channel stickers, so I want to make sure and give them a shout out. And guys, take a couple minutes, go check out their channels, give their videos a chance, check them out. They're doing some pretty cool stuff. But I wanted to start by giving a shout out to RC Recreations. He sent me his stickers. He actually sent me two different sizes, a large sticker and a small sticker. Really cool. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Make sure and check out his channel. And then also MSR RC Customs. So he's done 2 things for me. One, he sent me these really cool stickers. In fact, they're 2 different designs, 2 different sizes. Really cool. I really appreciate it. But he also sent me some STL files some interior 3D printable interior files for the Gremlin. So he's built one of these Gremlins too, and he designed some interior parts for it that are 3D printable, and he sent those files to me, and I really want to say a big thank you for that. And he'll be getting a shout out during the RC shop episodes too when we use those files. I'm probably gonna customize them a little bit for mine and Lee's originality. I want Lee over at Bull Gear to have an original interior, but man, what he sent to me is gonna be a great base to work for. It removes a lot of work for me. So I want to give a big shout out and thank you for that. And guys, go check out his channel. He's really doing some cool things. And I want to say thanks to you guys for stopping by, checking me out, listen to me ramble about nothing like I always say. Thank you, patrons out there. I hope to see your the airbags and what you do with them. Thanks for joining me. Hit that subscription button down there if you want to keep up with these builds. Hit that like. It really helps in the YouTube algorithms. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.